The Dating Contract by Miwakarai on Archive of Our Own. Chapter 4 Andre's Ice Cream. It's been about a month since Marinette and Noir signed the dating contract. What started off as a joke was slowly turning into something deeper. Noir could feel his love for Ladybug turn from romantic to platonic. Of course, he still loved her, but more as a friend, as he respected her as a partner. Ladybug, on the other hand, began to be more friendly with Noir, opening up to him and hugging him every time she saw him. Noir thought to himself that their relationship as friends was getting stronger. Meanwhile, for him, it was beginning to be harder for him to be around Marinette as Adrien. He wanted to hug her at school and eat lunch with her, follow her around like a puppy, but since they had agreed not to seek each other out in civilian form, he had no other choice but to respect that boundary. Unexpectedly, he didn't know their bond was about to grow stronger today when he woke up in a cold sweat from a nightmare, and the only thing he could think of was to call Marinette. He didn't waste time searching for the blank phone that he kept under his pillow. He heard the phone ring once and picked it up, too quickly for him to regret his decision. "Hey, kitty," she answered. Her sleepy voice was making his heart skip a beat. "Sorry. I think I rolled over in my sleep and pressed my phone by accident and called you. I didn't mean to wake you up. Good night." "Wait, I wasn't sleeping. I was up working on a project for school. Talk to me. What is it?" Marinette encouraged him. Adrien turned to the clock on his nightstand and read the number 3:47 a.m. Sorry, it's stupid. I just had a nightmare." Marinette's soothing voice coaxed him to continue. Not to get too much away, but I lost my mom, a while back, and in my dream, I was chasing her. She was laughing, and I couldn't catch up. And as I kept running, I fell down a dark, deep tunnel and landed in a cage. And the cage just kept getting smaller and smaller, and I woke up. He closed his eyes, ready for her to tease him or laugh. "Thank you for allowing yourself to open up to me, Kat. I know that it isn't easy, especially since you carry such a big secret with you. It's often hard to deal with your darkest emotions when it feels like there's no one around to listen." She paused to hear him breathing through the phone and continued. "Although I don't know you very well, I think it's safe to say that your mom loved you just as much as you loved her. And whether she's here or not doesn't change that fact. Maybe the nightmare was a reassurance that at the end of the dark and scary tunnel we call life, she'll be waiting for you at the end of it. So stay brave. Whatever cage you find yourself locked into, I promise you that I will always be there to set you free." She smiled as she thought of him, knowing that as Ladybug she would always be there to protect him. Adrien didn't say anything. The lump in his throat and his hot tears running down his cold face made him feel almost paralyzed. "Noir? Did you fall asleep?" "Silly kitty." She laughed softly and shook her head. "Good night, my prince," she whispered before hanging up. Adrien stared down at his hands as he felt the tears fall into his open palms. "Would Marinette have said that to me if she knew I was actually Adrien?" he whispered out loud to himself. "Is she still in love with Adrien anyway? Please don't be in love with Adrien. Be in love with Noir," he muttered as his eyes began to slowly shut. Marinette rushed to school, late from finishing her project all night. Normally she wouldn't procrastinate, but it's kind of hard to do a project when you're busy saving all the parents night after night. She ran up the stairs and into her classroom. Luckily, no one was there in their seats, and it was impossible to notice that she was late. She placed her materials on the desk and scanned the room to figure out what was going on. Everyone had gathered around Lila, who was busy showing off something on her phone. Marinette rolled her eyes back and turned to her project, not caring what lie Lila had come up with this time. She was about to take a seat when Alia called her name. "Marinette! Lila is showing us a picture of her and her new boyfriend. Isn't she so lucky? Come look." Alia waved her hand for Marinette to go to the back of the classroom with everyone else. Marinette just shook her head at Alia and crossed her arms with an X motion, trying to make her understand that she was not at all interested. Instead, Alia pushed Lila towards the front of the class so she could show Marinette herself who her new boyfriend was. "Look, Marinette, I got a picture with me and my boyfriend, Noir," Lila said happily. "What?" Marinette heard the words before she could even say them, and turned around to see Adrien standing at the doorway of the classroom. That's right. Adrien! I'm dating Cat Noir. And Marinette, since I know you love to play detective, here's a picture of the two of us. Markov already scanned it to detect any foul play. Right, Max? Lila turned back to Max and Markov, who both nodded. 0% of any Photoshop. It's a genuine picture, Max said. Let me see that! Marinette snatched the phone from Lila and stared closely at the picture. Adrien coming around next to her to get a better look at the picture too. The picture was of Cat Noir carrying Lila bridal style. She had one arm wrapped around his neck and the other stretched out to take a selfie. Lila could be seen kissing his cheek, and Cat Noir smiling softly. This is ridiculous, Marinette began, refusing to accept that this picture was real. I just saved her in that picture. She kissed me without even asking first, Adrien thought to himself. I had a feeling you'd be jealous, Marinette. I've gotten used to it since you always try to attack my most precious moments, but I forgive you. Lila stepped out to hug Marinette. Marinette pushed her phone away and smiled. Oh yeah? If he's your boyfriend, then call him right now. Put him on speaker. Call him, she yelled, pushing Audio away as she tried to stop her from arguing. Maybe you've forgotten, but Cat Noir is busy saving Paris. I usually only call him for emergencies. I refuse to waste his precious time, just because you refuse to believe me. Lila crossed her arms and smirked at Marinette. Is that really why you won't call him? Or is it because you can't? Because I sure can. Marinette reached into her bag and brought out the black cell phone that Cat Noir had given her. Adrien saw her take the phone out of her bag and knew he had to act fast. If she pressed that call button on her phone, the phone in his pocket would immediately ring, and there was absolutely nothing he could say to lie his way out of that. Marinette, wait! Adrien jumped on top of Marinette, causing them both to crash on the floor. Adrien looked down at Marinette, who lay pinned down underneath him. His hands were on her wrist in an attempt to take the phone from her hand. Shaking from the fall, her eyes shut tightly, fluttering open to stare back at him. Adrien, she gasped. Adrien felt his chest get tight as she put her lips together and blew air up at his face, causing his bangs to fly up. I can't breathe, she managed. Oh, sorry. Adrien panicked and quickly sat up, bringing her up with him. He tried to hide his blushing face and ignored his quickened heartbeat. I need to talk to you. Immediately. Like, right now. Come on. He jumped up, still holding onto her wrist, and ran out of the classroom with her. Everyone in the classroom looked at each other, and quickly ran after the blushing couple. Had the day finally come where they'd admit their feelings to each other? Give them some privacy. Don't chase after them, Alia yelled as she grabbed Nino to help block the classroom door once Marinette and Adrien left. Adrien ran into the locker room with Marinette and slammed the door shut behind them, pulling her closer to the corner so they wouldn't be heard. Adrien, why did you do that? Let me go. I need to prove Lila wrong. She turned to the door, but was held back by his firm hold on her wrist. Marinette, please. You and I both know Lila's lying, but what good would it do proving her wrong? Every time you humiliate her, she ends up getting akumatized. That's just adding more unnecessary work for Cat Noir and Ladybug, Adrien argued. Marinette stopped struggling and turned to face him, realizing that he was correct. Wait, how do you know she's lying? She asked him. Because she did the same thing to me, remember? When she came over to my house and that lied that she needed tutoring. She took a selfie of me without my permission and texted it to everyone I know, Adrien recalled. Oh, you're right. She did do that. What up? Marinette began. How are you so sure that she's lying this time? Adrien asked. He leaned closer to her. Will she admit she's dating Cat Noir to me? Adrien thought to himself, his heart racing as he looked into her eyes. Marinette stuttered as she tried to come up with an excuse. What would Adrien think if he knew I was dating Cat Noir? Could I even trust him with that? What if he doesn't like me anymore? Wait, do I even care? Do I like Cat Noir more than Adrien? Marinette, Adrien yelled and grabbed her shoulders, shaking her out of her trance. Huh? Oh, right, Lila, that little... Please, Marinette, just let it go. You have such a strong sense of justice, and I admire that thing about you. As long as you and I know the truth, does it really matter what everyone else thinks? You're our everyday ladybug, and I'll always trust you. You know that, right? He smiled softly at her, slowly grabbing her hand as he looked into her eyes. Yeah, you're right. She looked down at the floor and sighed. Shall we? He stood up and extended his hand to hers. She grabbed onto it, and together they walked back to the classroom. Everyone's eyes quickly turned to look at them, realizing that they were still holding hands. Marinette quickly ripped her hand away from Adrien and walked over to Lila. I'm sorry for overreacting. I guess I was a bit jealous, she said through her gritted teeth. Of course I forgive you. It's natural for people to be jealous of me, Marinette. You're no exception. She patted Marinette's shoulder and flashed her fake smile. Anything you want me to say to my boyfriend Cat Noir on your behalf? Maybe an autograph? Lila teased. Marinette clenched her fist at her side. Nothing, Marinette snapped before going back to her seat. Adrien turned around in the seat and flashed Marinette a thumbs up before turning back to face the front, resting his face in the same hand that had been holding onto Marinette's. I can't believe I held her hand, Adrien whispered to himself. Dude, are you okay? Nino turned to Adrien, who was only nodding in response. Girl, you walked in here holding hands with Adrien, and you've got nothing to say to me? Alia grabbed Marinette's shoulders and shook her back and forth. Huh? Adrien? Oh, yeah, he was just helping me with some stuff. No biggie. Marinette shrugged and looked over the project of materials that she had left sitting on her desk. No biggie? No biggie? Marinette, do you even hear yourself right now? Alia looked at her, wondering what had happened to her Adrien obsession. There might be other stuff to life than just Adrien, Marinette said softly, so he wouldn't hear. Her thoughts began to drift again to Cat Noir. She suddenly felt anxious to see him again tonight. Other stuff or other guys? Girl, are you seeing someone else? Alia was interrupted as Miss Bushtier walked into the class and clapped her hands for everyone to stop talking and began presenting their projects. After what seemed like an endless day of fighting villains and avoiding Alia's questions, Marinette laid her back in her bed and let out a huge sigh. What's wrong, Marinette? We saved the akumatized victim again today. Sure, it was hard, but you faced worse. Why do you seem so down? Tiki asked as she hovered over Marinette. It's not that, Tiki. It's today at school when Adrien held my hand. I didn't feel like I was going to explode. I spoke to him normally. What's wrong with me, Tiki? She looked up at Akwami, who laughed and hugged her cheek in response. It seems to me like your love for Adrien has moved towards Cat Noir, Tiki teased. Huh? Cat Noir? No way. We're just friends. Marinette felt herself blush and hoped that Tiki wouldn't point out this time. Besides, it's against the rule for us to fall in love. How embarrassing would it be if I told him I loved him and he said he loves Ladybug? Well, then again, I could just date him as Ladybug, right? She smiled, knowing that this idea was the worst one she'd ever had. Almost as if she had manifested him in her thoughts, Marinette heard knocking at the door above her, knowing exactly who it was. Hi, Tiki. Marinette patted Tiki's head as apology for shooing her away and opened the door above her, looking up at Cat Noir's grinning face. Hey, princess. Why the sad face? He asked, helping her onto the balcony. Oh, it's nothing. Just basic school drama. She laughed and rolled her eyes, hiding her face away from him so he wouldn't see how upset she was. Does it have something to do with the picture Lila posted online? He said, as he showed her a picture on his staff. The same one Lila had been passing around earlier in class that day. Wow. I guess her lie had spread so big and far that you managed to hear of it. But whatever, let's not talk about it. I promised my friend Adrien I'd let it go. Marinette let out a dramatic sigh and threw her hands into feet. Well, I'm no Adrien, but I know how to make you feel better about this. Cat Noir smirked and pushed Marinette down into her room. Dress cutely. We're going on a date, he announced, closing the door behind him and turning away to give Marinette some privacy. But we just went on a date a few days ago, he could hear Marinette shout from her room. Dress cutely, my ass. I'll wear these old sneakers. Marinette reached under her desk for the sneakers and grabbed a random dress from her closet. Get in the dress pocket, Tiki, Marinette hissed as she tied her laces and knocked on the door leading to the room, signaling Cat Noir to get up. He jumped up and opened the door for her, holding one hand out to help her. Wow. He let out a whistle as she climbed up to face him. All white? I said it's a date, not our wedding, princess. Cat Noir purred as he circled her to get a full view of her outfit. Marinette looked down and realized that both her shoes and her dress were matching white. It was a coincidence, she insisted to Cat Noir, who was still laughing. Let's just go. She held her arms up to him, still laughing. Cat Noir picked up Marinette in one motion. He laughed at her blushing face, hoping that his own wasn't very obvious to her. He secretly hoped everything was in place, as he began jumping from roof to roof. Eventually, reaching the bridge that stood over the river, and there, waiting for them, stood Andre and his famous ice cream cart. Cat Noir landed at the end of the bridge and helped Marinette stand. Let's share some ice cream. He took her hand and she patted down her dress from the wind and looked around at the change of scene in front of her. It'd be a shame if someone gave Alia a fake scoop and said Ladybug would be here tonight. He winked at her and motioned over to Alia, who was secretly, but not so secretly, hiding in a bush with a camera ready. What? But Ladybug isn't showing up here, is she? Marinette asked. Nope, I just lied to Alia so she'd be here. See us on a date and post it online, he quickly explained. Marinette made a face, clearly not understanding what was going on. Let's give her a show, yeah? Cat Noir leaned into Marinette's ear and whispered, Follow my lead. Confused at what he meant, Marinette did as she was told and they interlocked fingers. She walked with him up the bridge towards the ice cream cart, carefully leaning her head on his arm. One ice cream for these two lovebirds, Andre exclaimed, happily as they walked up to him. Green lime for the color of his eyes and a bittersweet romance. Andre started off with the first and biggest scoop. Blueberry for the color of her eyes, her hair, and the night sky that holds all your secrets. He winked at them as he placed a second scoop on top. And lastly, a small scoop of rose-flavored pink ice cream for a friendship underneath the disguises. He chuckled as he placed one small spoon on the side of the ice cream and handed it to Cat Noir. A friendship underneath the disguises? I wonder what that means, Marinette began to think as they both walked down past the bridge towards a bench. Don't even worry about that. Let's just enjoy this ice cream as a couple. Cat Noir smiled as they both took a seat. A couple of besties? Marinette asked, trying to test her luck in the romance field with Cat Noir. No, babe. As a couple. He reached for the small spoon and started off for the pink ice cream. He cautiously turned his head to see Alia watching as he brought the spoon up to Marinette's lips. She blushed and rolled her eyes. You don't have to feed me. Cat Noir took his chance and shoved the ice cream in her open mouth, laughing as her cheek puffed up to hold the spoon. We always feed each other, as friends, right, Marinette? He laughed and scratched the back of his neck, hoping he hadn't made her uncomfortable. Yeah, as friends, she sadly repeated and took the spoon out to feed him back. Remind me again why Alia thinks she's spying on us? Marinette asked as she tried to pretend not to notice and hear the camera shutter go off every few seconds. Because everything that goes on Ladyblog instantly goes viral overnight, and it would be such a shame for Lila to be proven wrong about her dating scandal. He laughed. Marinette threw her head back and laughed with him. Is this what this is all about? Yep. Revenge is a dish best served cold, my princess. He laughed with her and leaned in to place a kiss on her forehead. Marinette's eyes widened. What was that for? She asked, trying not to panic. It was a declaration of love, Cat Noir said in his mind. Just playing the part of a loving boyfriend, he partially lied and continued to feed her the ice cream. Meanwhile, Alia tried not to squeal as she saw Cat Noir place a kiss on Marinette's forehead. Was this why Marinette was so jealous at school today? Because, no. Could Cat Noir be playing Marinette and Lila? Alia thought to herself from her hiding spot at the end of the bridge. I have to find out and expose the truth, Alia said out loud as she jumped from her spot in the bush and began to walk over to the couple. Cat Noir, Marinette. Alia called their attention and placed her hand on her hip, while she used the other one to record. Cat Noir, earlier pictures circled the internet confirming you and Lila Rosie are both an item. And now, on the same day, I see you enjoying what appears to be a date with Marinette Dupan Chang. Care to explain yourself? Alia asked in her best reporter voice. Cat Noir grinned at the camera and held up a peace sign. It's actually super great of you to join us tonight, Alia. It's true, I've seen the picture of Lila and me circling the internet. However, that was just a selfie we took together after I saved her from another accumulation. Just a hero and his fan. Nothing else. Here, on the other hand, is my one and only amazing, beautiful, and super talented girlfriend. He motioned towards Marinette, who grinned awkwardly and waved at the camera. Alia quickly stopped recording and turned to Marinette. Girlfriend? Boyfriend? She hissed, pointing at Cat Noir. Marinette grinned and leaned into Cat Noir, hoping he would shield her from Alia's outburst. How long? And you never told me, girl, Alia exclaimed, feeling betrayed. About a month, and Cat Noir felt Marinette clamped her hand over his mouth. Not another word, kitty. Take me home, she said. Hold on, babe. You've got some ice cream on your... He leaned into her and used his thumb to wipe away the ice cream on her bottom lip. Marinette swore all of Paris could hear the way her heart began to beat faster and faster with every second. They both stared at each other, Cat Noir smirking with the reaction he had gotten from her. Silly kitty. She raised her hand up to his head and stroked his ears, causing a low purr to rise from his chest. She parted her lips slightly and leaned into his face. Take me home now, she whispered and pulled his ears tightly so he would get the hint. With both of their faces still bright red, he nodded and quickly picked up her, handing her the ice cream. Sorry, Alia. I'll explain at school tomorrow, Marinette said as Cat Noir began to lead up to the roof of the nearest building. Alia stared with her mouth open as they jumped away from her view. Cat Noir and Marinette? Who would have thought? She wondered out loud. As soon as they reached her balcony, Cat Noir let Marinette down as she began to scold him. Cat, this is supposed to be a secret relationship, remember? Sorry, I just got carried away with my acting. Plus, who wouldn't want to show off you as their girlfriend? Cat Noir smiled as he grabbed her hands and brought the ice cream she was holding up to his face, taking a small lick from it. Now I have to lie to Ollie about our relationship. I feel so bad for lying. Well, technically, it's not lying. We are dating, just with a written contract, but we're still dating, Cat Noir argued. Let's go down to my room. I have to call Alia and ask her not to post this. She grabbed his hand, and they both went down into her room. Cat Noir watched from the bed as Marinette paced back and forth in her room, arguing with Alia on the phone, his tail swishing back and forth as he looked around the room. He noticed the pictures of Adrien still up on the wall. Okay, so Alia automatically uploaded the first picture of you feeding me ice cream. The video, however, she promised she wouldn't post, but also refused to delete it from her phone, so... Guess I'll have to stay on her good side for a while, Marinette sighed in defeat and sat down on the floor. Hey, that shouldn't be hard, right? She's your best friend. Have a little more faith in her. Cat Noir jumped off her bed and sat down on the floor next to her, feeding her the cone that was left from the ice cream. Well, I wish I could say I was mad at you, but that was actually pretty funny. She laughed loudly. Part of me wishes to see Lila's face when she sees the picture, but the other part of me is going to dread all the questions at school tomorrow. She stretched out on the floor, facing the ceiling. She used his thigh as a pillow and closed her eyes as she tried to relax. Cat Noir swallowed what was left of the ice cream cone and looked down at her. His eyes focused on her face. How come I never noticed the light freckles that danced their way across the bridge of her nose? He smiled as he saw her face relax, the tension in her eyebrows fading. He couldn't help but reach his hand up to stroke the few strands of hair away from her face and behind her ear. To his surprise, her face leaned into his touch. Marinette's face rested in Cat Noir's palm, as his own face hovered a few inches above her. Kiss her. Kiss her. Kiss her. Cat Noir could hear his heartbeat speed up as the thought of his lips touching hers crossed his mind. He allowed his eyes to wander to her lips. They looked so soft and pink. Had they always looked like that? Am I looking at the same Marinette I've always known? How come I have never seen her in this light? Why does my stomach feel so silly? And his thoughts were suddenly interrupted as Marinette let out a snore. He laughed as it pulled him back to a reality. How could you fall asleep on the floor, my princess? He asked her and picked her up and climbed into her bed. He untied her shoes for her, slipping them off and letting them fall onto the floor before tucking her in gently and crawling up to place a kiss on her cheek. See you tomorrow morning, he whispered softly before escaping through the balcony, letting the door shut behind them.